from that angle.
Hey,
that looks like it's a lateral.
It's a lateral.
That is amazing.
Because he's in front of the line, and look at this.
That's what I'm saying. You have to see where he throws the ball from. You can't look at the body.
NFL Week 1 is over, and so are a lot of fan bases' hopes and dreams and mental health, but not for everyone. There were no ties this week, meaning half of us are happy, the other half are pissed off. I'm Roman. I'm an Eagles fan from Bucks County, and this is my co-host.
And I'm Riley. I'm Riley from Los Angeles, resident Rams fan right here. Hard
All
LA,
right.
baby. Couldn't
Coast
be
to
happier.
coast, our fan bases don't have beef, but we're in the same fantasy league, so we're gonna have some beef.
This fantasy beef does get serious, yeah.
It will get serious, and I think the Eagles and Rams have a game against each other this year, don't they?
I can check this. Hold on.
Yeah, we have the technology to
Yeah,
confirm
yeah.
that.
At home.
What?
At home.
What week?
October 8th, actually, so not too far off. So that's probably like week 5 or 6.
Not too far off. I mean, that week you can
Not too far off, but it's neither here nor there. Good week of football. I think this was a good week of football.
Yeah, week one was pretty good. And because the Eagles and Rams aren't playing, we can actually talk about the important things that happen, unlike that week when it doesn't matter if a meteor struck the field in another game. We're going to be talking about the Eagles and Rams. But I had a lot of fun week one, except for the fact that I had COVID.
Yeah. That'll definitely put a damper on whatever happiness you might have. And streaming was really, really a bitch.
Yeah, streaming has been a problem. Look, we'll get into the games, but quickly, a note on streaming for anyone who can relate. How much of a nightmare has this been lately? I have NFL Sunday Ticket, which is normally like a $300 service. I got it for like $115 with the student discount, which was crazy. But Sunday Ticket has this horrible thing where if a game is in your market, like if it's being aired in your local market, you just can't watch it. It just won't show it to you. Which
that's just so funny to me. That's so funny. Like just the fact that it just blacklists like whatever game is closest to you.
I mean, like for certain fan bases, that's a blessing in disguise, I guess. But like for the most part, I want to watch the nationally televised games. I want to watch these.
I'm sure if you asked me a couple years ago if I wanted the Rams blacklisted from my area, I probably would have said absolutely.
Fair. I mean, fair enough, and I get why they do it. You know, I'm not even going to get into it. It will just make me mad. But Sunday Ticket, I knew heading in I wasn't going to get the Thursday and the Monday night games. But I'm looking at this now and I'm like, there's just, if I was paying $300 for this, I'd be furious. Like, if you get Fubo TV, which is like $100 million a month, then you can watch all the games and you don't have to worry about it. But most people don't have that. So anyway, illegal streaming seems to be the move these days. It's just a disaster.
Even then, it's very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, watching football on a porn site is never like the thing I'm extremely excited to do. But hey, man, sometimes it's the only way I can watch Monday Night Football.
Streaming, I think if more, honestly, I think it's a whole untapped market. I think if more porn sites like got into that whole piracy side of things, I feel like we could totally just bring two worlds together.
Well,
I think that'd be perfect.
I mean, that is true. You can you skip the commercials. You've got halftime entertainment, all the good stuff. I mean, I don't actually watch the games on a porn site, but there's so many porn pop-ups. Like you'll be watching I was watching like Brees Hall just take off down the sideline and just bang right up like a whole array of Naruto hentai, completely unwanted.
That's great though. That's just so much character. I like it.
It's like watching the games on Nick, except X-rated. That's
Yeah,
a whole
exactly.
nother element.
It's like totally like it's like completely like done over in like the animation. It's just like naked anime characters. It's like what they're
Yeah.
doing for like the Toy Story game coming up.
Oh my God, the Toy Story. I can't wait to watch the Toy Story game on one of these services. So when I see something popping up on my screen animated, it'll be a 50-50. If it's Buzz Lightyear or someone's like exposed butthole, it'll be horrible.
Oh yeah, that's good. Hey, I'm all for it. Oh yeah,
Look, I wish there was
we gotta
another
start that.
alternative, but I don't have Fubo TV money. Not until we make a Patreon and all the tiers are $50 a month and we have thousands of patrons. But that is in the future. For now, let's focus on the recent past. And it seems like every season there is a team that everyone just kind of wants to see win. America's team, if you will. And yeah, I'm mostly calling it America's team just to piss off the Cowboys because they always like to be America's team. But it seemed pretty obviously like that was going to be the Detroit Lions this year, right?
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty fair assessment.
But then, but then on Monday Night Football, the worst possible thing happened to a team that no one thinks deserves more hardship. And that is obviously the injury to Aaron Rodgers after only
That's
4 snaps. Do you want to talk about this?
that doesn't feel real, man. Like it just doesn't feel real that like 4 plays in, Aaron Rodgers snapped his Achilles and just like is out for possibly the rest of his career. I don't think the true weight of it is set in for me yet.
No, it
I'm sure
hasn't.
the true. I'm sure Jets fans are definitely still in denial, but I am kind of like starting to realize that that's probably the last we ever see of Aaron Rodgers in the pads and the helmet. So you
This
know
is one
what?
of those moments.
We'll deal with that emotional turmoil in the future. But
Yeah,
it is
for
what
real.
moment is it?
I was saying this is one of those moments where, like, if you're not a sports fan, you're just like, why is everyone acting like so emotional about this? It's like you don't know unless you've been watching. It's like, man, this is Aaron Rodgers, right? This is like guy that we thought was going to be like Tom Brady, like he's just going to be around forever. Like, yeah, it's just the thing. Like, how old is he? What, like
Yeah,
38, 39? And it's
he's
still
39. Yeah,
39, it still felt like we could see him for a while. It still felt like that, the
yeah,
Jets were a QB away, and here's their guy. And to go out the way he did, it's like it's actual sadness. It's like I mean, you're talking about like the reality hasn't
yeah.
set in for the
It's
Jets
the
fans.
worst.
I mean, this is stages of mourning we're dealing with. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this will be one of those things that in the future it's going to be like you'll remember where you were whenever the Aaron Rodgers Achilles snap happened.
Which is horrible because it was on 9/11.
That's the worst.
Which is
Yeah.
I remember where
the,
I was
the
on
worst
9/11
the worst thing to
of
happen on 9/11 in a
2023.
long time.
It's like anyone born after 9/11 who's grown up with people saying, yeah, well, everyone who was around for 9/11, I remember where I was on September 11th. We can be like, I remember where I was on September 11th, 2023, when Aaron Rodgers tore
Yeah,
his Achilles.
this is
Oh,
definitely going to overshadow the other 9/11. But
I gotta.
listen, not all bad for Jets fans. Well, I mean, okay, well, it's mostly bad, but
It's mostly pretty bad.
they're 1-0. They're 1-0,
They
baby. They won the game.
what a bizarre game. What an absolutely bizarre game.
What a total trip of a game, really.
The game started with I don't know if you saw it. I think the moment for me that I was like, man, this Aaron Rodgers thing is like almost comically sad is when he was talking to Garrett Wilson when he's going out of the game, and the only quote we have is "I'm sorry, kid." I was like, "Oh my god, this is
Dog.
like,
I was laughing at that. I was laughing at that so hard though.
I
I was
like,
like,
this is This is like comically sad. So the game started like that and then ended with
Yeah.
a Zach Wilson overtime thriller. Well, I mean, he wasn't the reason it was an overtime thriller. He was the reason it got
He didn't even
brought to
play in
overtime.
overtime.
He didn't play in
He didn't even
overtime.
play in overtime.
A punt return touch. What an insane series of events. I mean, that ridiculous catch by Garrett Wilson. It went from a game
Yeah.
that we were talking when it was happening, saying this was like an offensively boring game, to the best game of week one, hands down, within the last
Yeah.
quarter.
Yeah, for sure. I just think like I don't know. I don't know what got. I mean, it's been proven that it's just sort of like a thing the Jets do, but I don't know what got in Josh Allen's head for like the last half of that game. I don't know what all that was, man. Good grief.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, look,
it wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst performance on the day, but it definitely can stake a claim as like the second or third worst.
Joe Burrow always finds a way to slip out of criticism. Like
Oh, wow, yeah.
everyone would be talking about how bad
If
Joe
the
Burrow was if Josh Allen didn't have a putrid performance on Monday
no,
Night
I think
Football.
if the games were in a different order, I think then it would have been like Joe
It would
Burrow
have been
being
the other
hated
way
on.
around.
But
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I mean, Zach Wilson is so memed at this point that like losing a football game to Zach Wilson, and I know quarterbacks don't play each other, but the perception is that you lost to Zach Wilson. It's such a meme.
yeah,
But look, we can recap the game all we want, but everyone saw it. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably sat down and watched Monday Night Football, unless like you had to go get dinner with your girlfriend's parents. But the real question now is, what should the Jets do about the quarterback situation? I have my opinions, but I want to hear yours first.
I've seen the big thing that I've seen really is I've seen quite a lot of trade for X backup things. I've seen a lot of those scenarios. I don't think that's the way to go. I think that the way that you have to do it is you have to run it with Zach Wilson and just be like, you know what? Let's just make them all think we know what we're doing. And if he plays badly, he plays badly. But you know what? We're going to say this is for the development, and we're always going to weasel out of this. So I think that that's what they should do here. Do I think that they're gonna do that? No. I think that what they're gonna do is they're gonna trade for a guy like Jarrett Stidham or something like that. Like
That's where
some
you're
backup
going?
guy is gonna. I'm going with I'm going with Jarrett Stidham. I
You don't think they're
try to
going
pick up Jarrett
famous
Stidham.
Jameis?
No, because the Saints wouldn't do that. The Saints don't have anybody. If they give up Jameis, then they don't have anyone behind Carr because Jake Hayner's suspended until like week 7.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I'll say. I agree. I think it should be Zach Wilson until an actual real alternative shows up.
Until further notice.
And the thing is this: you're in a situation right now where, I mean, you just have to accept the reality. The quarterback situation looks grim, right? Your best, most stable option is hoping that Zach Wilson does well. And I know if you're a Jets fan, that just sounds like medieval torture. But like, think about it this way. Your other options are very known commodities. Like Carson Wentz is not that guy. You can't win in the playoffs with Carson Wentz at this stage, right? There's Jacoby Brissett, who I think there's a better chance that Zach Wilson starts looking like the first round draft pick that he was, or that Jacoby Wilson turns into the next Geno Smith. Of course, I think there's a better chance that will happen with Zach Wilson. But the real reason that Zach Wilson is your team's best option is you've got to remember that there's a locker room there. And yeah, we've talked about Zach Wilson losing the locker room, this and that, but doing it with one of your own guys is always better. Pause. But like we've got well, but like you've got to you've got to do something to keep to keep everyone's faith in this organization, right? And if Zach Wilson turns out to be good, if he turns out to be even decent, that will be something for the team to rally behind. Now,
That's true.
I know no NFL GM is thinking about it like that, but I mean, you might have statistically better games by bringing in like Jacoby Brissett or someone like that. I've seen like Nick Foles brought up. Um, but
Yikes.
yeah, it's like it's getting desperate for the Jets. Um, but even if you like, the thing is, how much better is it going to be than Zach Wilson? And I still truly believe, maybe naively, I still truly believe that the talent is there with Zach Wilson. He is
I
just in
think,
his own
yeah,
head, and he's kind of a poor decision maker. Which these are big issues. Like, I'm not happy about starting Zach Wilson, but I would much rather just let him be the starting quarterback for 3 weeks. And if it's atrocious, then you have to trade him. But if he's heading in a positive direction, just let it rock, because the chances are more likely than not that with this Aaron Rodgers injury, you're just not a contender. So you may as well take a chance on helping your team develop for the future.
yeah. The way I see it is I do think that you said it right whenever like, you know, you definitely are not a contender with the current events currently taking place. So you have to like, because I am also a believer that with Zach Wilson, there's a good QB in there somewhere, and I think the only way to try to extract that is to give him playtime, and this is the perfect time. It's the perfect time to give him playtime. Everyone knew it. It's even increasingly obvious now that Aaron Rodgers was not an investment for the future, and that they were going to still use Aaron Rodgers' presence as an investment in Zach Wilson for the future.
Yeah, that's
And
another thing.
now that Aaron Rodgers is gone, you just have to like, all right, well, we're gonna do what we said we were gonna do once Aaron Rodgers was gone, and that's play Zach Wilson.
Yeah, the good thing that the Jets did, specifically their head coach Robert Saleh, is they told everyone that Zach Wilson is their guy. Even if what's going on behind closed doors is that they're making phone calls trying to see what they can do if Zach Wilson sucks, you need to give that guy that confidence. And the thing is, like, if Zach Wilson goes out next week, I don't know who they're playing. I got to look that up real quick. But if Zach Wilson goes
They're
out
playing the
next week,
Cowboys. They're playing the Cowboys.
okay,
It could be really bad, but
it could be really bad. But if Zach Wilson goes out next week, the week after, I mean, I think the week after they play the Patriots, also a tough one. If he has a good performance in any of these games, if he leads them to an upset in any of these games, you could be looking at the thing he needed, right? Like, the reason that I say Zach Wilson is the best quarterback for this situation is, like I said, you're not a contender unless one of these quarterbacks produces some unexpected upside. They do something that we wouldn't expect them to do. Are you going to get that from Carson Wentz? No. Are you going to get that from
no,
like Jacoby Brissett? No. Of course, these aren't the only
no,
options. There's other guys, but any of these other options of guys that are available right now, of these like guns for hire, basically NFL mercenaries, they're in that position because they don't have that. And Zach Wilson does. I mean, look, there's like the unrealistic options. There's they're going to trade for Trey Lance. They're going to get Malik Willis. They're going to I think your LA Rams winning kind of fucked over the Jets a little bit because there was a possibility that Stafford could
no,
be
yeah,
pried away
it was
from
a
the
step.
Rams, but that's done now.
Yeah, I mean, allegedly there were phone calls being made, but
Yeah,
that ship has sailed for
that
sure.
ship has sailed. So I think the Jets should, uh, surprisingly be mad at the Rams for winning.
Yeah,
Strange turn of events there. But
yeah, they used to be mad at us for losing. Now they're mad at us for winning.
I guess the only other thing to talk about with this Jets game is what's going on with the Bills. Should Bills fans be in panic mode? Should they be having what sober thoughts should Bills fans be thinking? Not that Bills fans have a lot of sober thoughts.
That couldn't. Yeah, I was about to say I don't think a Bills fan would willingly put together a sober thought, but um, I would say I mean in a word, no. I don't think it is panic mode because think about it. I mean, there is definitely like all off season we saw the moves they made. There's definitely an absolute possibility that the Jets could be the best defense in the NFL this year. So that's already staked.
Yeah,
But
that Jets
and
defense looked
and
absolutely disgusting.
the Bills defense also looked really good. So,
Yeah.
you know, save for a couple brain fart moments, which every defense has sometimes. I mean, I get it. The Bills defense also looked pretty airtight. So, I mean, they still have a good team, but obviously that's not what people are wondering about. And I think that Josh Allen needs to play against a really bad team again to get his confidence back. And luckily, next week they play the so at home.
Yeah.
And so I think that what Josh Allen needs is to get his confidence back because he's played a bunch of hard games over the last couple of weeks, fans, and he has had people say like over the last 5 games he's sucked ass. I mean, he has, but he's played really hard opponents over those games, and I think that what he needs is just to completely demolish an inferior opponent, and that'll get him his confidence back. And
Yeah,
we're
I think
probably going
he
to start
needs some
seeing
low
regular.
commitment hookups, and he'll get his groove
Yeah,
back. But I completely
exactly.
agree on Josh Allen. But there's another game that warrants some real consideration this time, and it was also the not Sunday primetime game. We're not just lazy. It's not that just those are the only games we watched. We watch a lot of football. We really like it. But but
Big
that
old football
is
fans out here.
yeah, I promise we like football. um, but
You couldn't tell.
that is the America's team, or maybe America's team, Detroit
Possible
Lions,
America's team?
possible America's team contender, Detroit Lions versus the Kadarius Toney led Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh
Is this
God.
the worst wide
Listen, I
receiver
mean,
performance ever? I mean, like real no, honestly, no
absolutely. It
hyperbole.
has to be.
It's got to be up there. I mean, like
It has to be.
I haven't looked it up. Like I didn't go on YouTube and search like worst wide receiver game ever and see who from the 70s like was doing acid one
Well,
game or like
yeah, but
you know
there's
what
a
I mean?
difference
But
between like, I mean, there have been very little like wide receiver performances in NFL history to where like pretty much every issue that your team had can be traced back to you. So,
it's so
like,
I mean, this was a god awful, miserable performance. I mean, this is like the equivalent of if in the NBA in game one of the Houston Rockets, if Dylan Brooks had like 14 turnovers. Like this is a downfall people were preying
yeah,
on, right? Like people were fed up with Kadarius
yeah.
Toney. I personally think I'm
I
like, I
mean,
don't get
I mean,
invested in
Giants
this
fans
stuff.
especially.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get super personally invested in this stuff. I don't hate the professional athletes, but the fact that like he went out there with a chip on his shoulder because people were bashing him and not didn't just have a bad performance, didn't just have his worst performance ever, but the worst performance ever
The worst performance of
is
all
just
time
it's
for
just comical. I mean, look, what did he do in that game? Let's look
you
at the
can't make this shit
positives.
up, man.
Let's look at the positives. He had a
Let's
catch for what, 0 yards, half a yard.
for I think he had a loss on the play for that
I think
one
he
catch. I
that
think
was
that
his
was it.
best. That was his best play of the game.
That was best play.
His
Three
second best
drops,
play of the
one
game.
of
Yeah,
which
go
his
go
second
for
best
it.
play of the game was
Just
like a
go for
short
it.
drop.
Yeah,
But his worst play of the game, the one we all knew, was the one where the Chiefs are driving, they're going down the field, they're up by a touchdown, scores 14-7. Patrick Mahomes drops back, throws a pass to Kadarius Toney right to him, bounces off his hands into the hands of safety Brian Branch, who returns it to the end zone for a touchdown.
you painted the
Oh,
perfect picture in my head, and let me tell you, that picture is like the drawing of a tortured man who's been behind bars for far too many years. It is
good
such
God.
a hideous, ugly picture. I mean,
It's such a mess. Oh my,
the
just so
craziest thing is
bad.
that we could have a debate That is one of the plays that happened in that game that you just described, and we can debate whether that was Kadarius Toney's worst play of the game because he also had
Yeah,
effectively the game-losing drop. I mean, I'm an
yeah, he
Eagles
had like
fan.
a game-losing drop. Yeah,
You're right. I'm an Eagles fan. I sat through Jalen Rager. Like I watched him drop back-to-back game-winning touchdowns against the Giants. I saw us draft JJ Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf, who is almost out of the league at this point. Not DK Metcalf,
no, he is out
obviously.
of the league.
Yeah. Oh, he's just out of the. No, I thought the Falcons picked him.
Jace, yeah,
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I've seen all of this stuff. I've seen us head into a season with Dorial Green Beckham as our wide receiver one. I've never seen a
uh,
performance as abysmal as Kadarius Toney in week one. He can only go up from here.
yeah. There's like yeah. I mean, I guess in a way you could take like he can take solace in the fact that there's no way that literally anyone will ever have a worse game as a wide receiver than him. So hey,
I mean, what could
he,
what could you do that would be worse than this? You'd have to be actively
I
like playing for the other team. Like you would have to be.
like four drops and a fumble and like another pick six thing.
I don't think like if you did any worse than this, you would just get taken out of the game. Like
Yeah, like
it's
that's the
crazy.
craziest part. Like he had all these bad plays, they kept like putting him in the game, which enabled him to have the worst game ever.
Which brings us to the real discussion to have here because Tony bashing is hilarious. But the reason that Kadarius Toney remained in this game is because the Kansas City Chiefs front office has decided that Patrick Mahomes is wide receiver proof. Look,
Yeah,
it's not
he
always
doesn't need him.
it's not always going to be this bad, right? You're not always going to have the worst wide receiver performance of all time happen. But does this make you, Riley, reevaluate what we maybe thought about the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver situation, keeping in mind Travis Kelce was out?
Well, it absolutely does, in my opinion. I mean, I saw all over the place people be like, "Oh, we could be priming for a big year from Kadarius Toney. We could be priming for a big year from Rasheed Rice. We could be priming for a big year from Justin Ross, from Sky Moore. All these names, all these dudes, all were basically, other than Tony, who actively lost in the game, all were basically non-factors in the game. And I do think that that will probably be a norm going forward. Other than Rasheed Rice, who caught a touchdown, it was all just total like totally non-existent stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was totally non-existent. And this is where I'm at, right? We know the astronomical impact that Travis Kelce has on a football team.
Yeah,
You've got to do so much to stop him. And even when you do all of that, you can't. He still gets the ball thrown his direction. He still catches it. He opens up the field for all the other wide receivers. Part of the reason you can afford to be lax on bringing, high caliber wide receivers to your team is because Travis Kelce is elevating everyone else in that way. But there's a problem with that, which is that when you're a Super Bowl contending team, 9 times out of 10, unless you're the Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Foles, the quarterback is a player that if they get injured, you're probably just not a contender anymore. But you don't want to
mm,
have another player that's the case for. And when we look at recent Super Bowl winning teams or even Super Bowl appearing teams, for the most part, that they don't have that. Other than their quarterback, like they could afford to lose their best player. And would they be, hurt? Would they be far less favored? Oh yeah, absolutely. But they're not
yeah,
eliminated, right? I think we
mm,
saw pretty clearly, if the Kansas City Chiefs don't have Travis Kelce, it's a wrap.
yeah, yeah. And they still played a tight game, but at the same time, you saw the Detroit Lions. I mean, Goff kind of sucked in a way. They were making a lot of blunders on offense, and they still came out with the win because Kansas City just couldn't get the ball rolling offensively just without Travis Kelce. and it was
I mean, yeah,
obvious.
and like you as a Rams
And
fan, right?
it was an
Can
expose in
you
a way. Like it was them being exposed.
exactly? And what I was bringing up you being a Rams fan for was when the Rams won the Super Bowl, right? Like, do I think that the Rams will win that game without Aaron Donald? No, probably not, right? But
Yeah,
do I think that the Rams are like just not a team that can win or can win the Super Bowl without Aaron Donald in one game? No, I don't think that was the case with that team. Do I think that do I think that the Bengals that season were like if they didn't have Jamar Chase, they're just screwed? No, like I don't think that's the
probably.
case. I mean, look,
No, I mean maybe they were.
uh, is it going to be a bad
Point
look?
being,
Right. Is it going to be a bad look? Of course. But the impact we saw from not having Travis Kelsey, it's like it's so bad. They need another. I mean, they don't have a second option at wide receiver. That's what I'm really trying to get at. They have a first option and a lot of thirds. Like
yeah,
in my opinion, I really think the Chiefs need to make an effort to bring in another pass catcher that can be a solid number two at the very least.
yeah. I mean you. It was
Oh, you cut out a bit. I can't hear
just
you.
interesting seeing that game, just seeing all this. I mean, guys who were hyped up in the offseason, like Justin Ross. I saw a lot of Justin Ross hype. Like, is Justin Ross gonna like have a season with Patrick Mahomes at the helm? Year two, he could break out. Total non-factor. No catches, no yards, not even a target. Like, just didn't do anything the entire time.
Yeah, I mean
And
it's
I it's it, and I think it's a total. It's kind of a case study into into what offseason hype does, and the fact that like these guys who generally speaking just aren't really good players getting that recognition because they were on the reigning Super Bowl champs was and then being non-factors was just pretty interesting to me.
like I'll be honest. I don't think Sky Moore is bad. I'm not even sold that Kadarius Toney is bad. Um he might be.
Not
but I'm
really,
not
not me
like
neither. I mean he could be,
but I don't
but I
think,
mean
I don't I'm not there yet. But I don't think they have I don't think any of these wide receivers are like 1,000 yard wide receivers. And I especially don't think that any of them are 1,000 yard wide receivers on a team that doesn't need them to be, right? Take a guy obviously he's possibly the best wide receiver two in the league, Devontae Smith. Um, but
yeah,
uh even we could take a guy who was the Bengals wide receiver three in Tyler Boyd. Like you're you're comfortable throwing them the ball. Or if someone's injured and they have to step up, yeah, it's not the best thing in the world, but you're not heading into that game like, oh my God, we have such a big problem here. The Chiefs are like
yeah,
that with the loss of only one player, and that's Travis Kelsey.
yeah. And it's also funny that like when you look at their wide receiver room, like if Kadari, like if like let's say like Marquez Valdez Scantling
Yeah. Oh, you're cutting out a bit.
goes down, right?
So
And then
if Marquez Valdez
also
Scantling
because
goes
like
down,
inevitably Kadarius Toney goes down or Kadarius Toney because he's injury prone. Like one of those guys.
sure,
They
sure.
have to like rely on Sky Moore, which uh very, very yikes. He didn't catch a single touchdown in his rookie season until the Super Bowl.
He's
And
just young. I mean, he's just young and
he's
he's
very
not.
he's very young and inexperienced. And like, their next option after Sky Moore is as an actual literal rookie. So it's just
That now there is
it's a
another
little
side of this game that we should touch on briefly, and that other side of the game is the other team, the Detroit Lions. Detroit
yeah.
Lions, I think we don't have too much time to talk about them, which is fine because I
I mean,
think
because I don't think there's much to talk about because if you saw the Lions at the end of last year, this is that exact same team.
That's
And
exactly what I
it's
was going to
just
say. Well, okay, I won't say they're the exact same team as last year, but
they're a little different. They have
what I
some
will
differences.
say is that the changes that we thought the Lions made, yeah, it seems to be exactly what's happening.
Yeah, it
Like
seems. Yeah, it's pretty evident.
it seems to be pretty evident. Okay, what I totally agree with you on is that the Lions offense is the same offense we saw last year. But
It
the
is.
addition of the new safety tandem, yeah, it looks good. Looks like it's paying off. Looks like,
Yeah, it looks pretty well. Yeah, I
it's too
mean,
early to say the Lions are contenders, but sorry, go ahead.
Chauncey Gardner played a good game. Brian Branch obviously had a pretty good game.
Yeah, Brian Branch looked fantastic. Sutton looked great.
Yeah,
Sam Laporta, the player who my fantasy season depends on. I love you, Sam.
he looked pretty good. Yeah, he had
He
some fight
looked
in him.
he looked pretty good. I can't wait for Sam Laporta to have a bad game so we can call him Sam Lemicky and give him the LeBron treatment. That will
Sam
be fun.
Lemicky.
That will be
That'll
fun.
be pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
Lemicky is such a
I
stupid
mean, there's just
insult.
not a whole lot to talk about. It's not a whole lot to talk about with the Lions. I mean, they're just hard fought, hard nosed football. I mean, Dan
Yeah.
Campbell's a great coach. I think he's coaching this team perfectly.
Yeah, Jared Goff
Um,
is literally Ryan Gosling, who is literally me. There's just so many reasons to like the
there's
Lions.
yeah, but I mean, to the point, I see a lot of people saying that the Lions are the modern day America's team, as you touched on earlier. Um, I see a lot of people saying that the Lions are a team that they're just going to root for because they just like teams like that. Not saying it has to be the Lions, but are there teams that you just find yourself this season rooting for without really
All
knowing
right.
why?
Well, that is a fantastic point to bring up because it's scripted. We agreed that we would talk about this beforehand.
Yeah, this is totally a scripted event. But hey,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah,
your team?
but so is the NFL.
We
So
haven't. It is a scripted bit, but we have not told each other the teams that we think we are
that
rooting
is
for.
the thing.
So
We don't know. Um
lay it on
Now
me.
I will lay it on you, but first, I'd like to point out that this week one was sort of interesting for some of the quote historically bad franchises. Obviously, everyone's over the not over the Lions thing, but everyone knows this is something happening with the Lions. But the Browns turned out to be pretty good. I am not rooting for the
Yeah.
Browns, thanks to Sean Watson. Um,
Hey.
the Colts, maybe they're not one of those historically bad, but they're a team we thought would be bad that ended up looking, promising. Sort of a moral victory. The Raiders actually won a game. The Jaguars are a team that has had a pretty tragic history that we also now at this point pretty common knowledge are on the come up. So are we seeing a sort of proletarian revolt of the bad NFL teams?
We could be.
We
Who
could be.
knows?
But let me tell you the team that I did not expect to give a rat's ass about until I watched them on Sunday, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Okay,
All
yeah, all
right.
right. Well, I want to hear what you have to. I want to hear your team first.
Listen. All right. We'll talk about this in a sec. But listen, this is a team that I thought was going to be. I'm going to be upfront. I thought they were going to be a bad team, and sure, they did come out of week one with a loss, and that happens to the best of us. But the team that I am going to be rooting for, surprisingly, the surprising team that I
I
didn't
feel
think
like
I
I
was gonna,
know who it is.
I didn't think I even was gonna like this team at all. But hey, we're here now. We're grown up. We can talk about this. The team that I find myself loving and find myself rooting for is the New England
England
Patriots.
Patriots. God damn it! I was hoping I was wrong. That's why I was
Oh
mad.
yeah,
I was like, I know
the New England Patriots.
we've got to talk about the bad things that happened to the Eagles. I thought I was
Listen,
gonna get away from it.
listen. You thought you were safe for the whole episode. No, no, no.
Once you said
I
you're like, I
think.
can't believe I like this team, I was like, ah, it was the former dynasty, isn't
Listen,
it?
one thing I have to say is Mac Jones won me over. Mac Jones
Yeah.
won me over. He looked poised. He looked good, and just he had a couple blunders, but he fixed all his mistakes, and he just played with a passion that game. And even though he
Look,
lost, he tried so hard. And I am really loving the reemergence of real Mac Jones football coming back. It's great to see.
I okay. I'm salty because they did some bad things to my Eagles. We still came out and we won. But big sack Mac, and I don't mean sack as in what happens when a defense tackles the quarterback. I mean this guy's got some big swollen nuts. He was making some more daring plays than I've seen Mac Jones do before. I'll give it to you, man. He carved us up. He carved us
Yeah,
up.
he carved y'all up. He carved y'all up.
But let me give you a
And
little bit of reasoning. Let me give you
with
before we get
little to
into it.
no big name
Okay, go
receiving
ahead.
help as well. So
I'll
I'm
just
just saying. I'm just
concede.
saying.
I'll just concede. Lay it on me. Tell me about Mac.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
All right. But the Bucks.
316 yards.
Yeah.
He's top three in the NFL right now in passing yards. So I mean, hey.
But the Bucks. Did you see this coming? Did you see me
I
being
honestly, I think because I did kind of see it coming, only for the reason being that I really do also love the Bucks, and I was hoping you were going to say the Bucks.
well, okay. I really had no affinity for the Bucks whatsoever. I've always been a Baker Mayfield guy, but I was kind of the opinion of like, yeah, I hope he does all right. Like I hope he's like good enough that he can go be a backup somewhere else. Now, again, it's only week 1 and he didn't like throw for 400 yards or anything. But
No,
Baker is only a fraction of the reason that I chose this team. I love the guy, but the real reason is that defense. This team looks so much more imaginative than I would have expected. And sometimes you see this happen when a team is kind of like in a what the hell do we have to lose scenario. But the safety blitzes, we saw them dialing up. The ways they were able to really maximize what they were getting out of that elite linebacker group. The two big names in particular. Um, and on offense, what you might not be aware of this. I wasn't until I started reading it a little bit. There is only one starter on the Buccaneers offensive line who is playing the same position they did last year, and that is their center. Even their star Tristan Wirfs has been moved over to the left side of the field. He's no longer
mm,
on the right. So this is like a huge
wow,
gamble, but yeah, let me tell you, that line looked great. They only let up 1 sack. Granted, Baker
they
Mayfield,
did.
he got around some stuff that might have been a sack for a less mobile quarterback, but I mean, there
That's
these
true.
are some risks that if they are paying off, it's going to make for some really fun football. Yeah, their run blocking was hopefully we see that improve a little bit, but I just didn't expect to be seeing things like this pay off. Devin White and Levante David, I've talked about before. They look nuts. If you like watching defense, you're going to love watching that. They have still 7 starters from their Super Bowl team, and they've got 4 first-round picks on their defense. Um, I think this team is going to be more fun to watch than I expected, and I think Week 1 was definitely some proof of that.
Yeah, touching on that defense, they got three. I want to say three. It might have been two. No, it was two. But they got 2 sacks on Kirk Cousins. One of them being the formerly mentioned safety blitz, and the other being defensive tackle Anthony Nelson. But they were generating pretty good pressure, and
Yeah,
mostly mostly thanks to the right side of their line with outside linebacker Joe Trion Shoyinka and defensive end Logan Hall, two very young guys who were drafted in 2021 and 2022 respectively, generating a lot of pressure, and it was really a bright outlook for the Bucks just the come up that these young defenders are having. And I think the Bucks are a team with a I think the way I would describe it is they're a team with a brighter future than they know. And
yeah.
I think that as we see like these young guys take from the guys that came before, and we're seeing all these seasoned vets who are still good players come along, and I think the Buccaneers are going to be a team that I will enjoy watching. I honestly, no offense to the guy, I don't know if I would say the same if Kyle Trask was their QB.
Yeah, no, I don't. Again, no offense to the guy. I don't know him. Baker Mayfield is such a personality that you're totally
He's a
right. He
leader of men.
elevates it. But look, I mean, I shouldn't be totally surprised, right? Like sometimes these we've got nothing to lose scenarios are like where teams turn out to be really fun and like that's where you can get that. But I think also more often than not we see teams just kind of when they're in that mediocrity phase um just kind of coast or just kind of wait for the NFL draft or wait for the right off season or trade deadline things to happen. Hope they get lucky on a quarterback, and that's just not what we're getting with the Bucks. It looks like they're trying to win
Yeah.
games. They're not tanking, and I'd love to see that. And I didn't expect to see it because Todd Bowles is not their new coach. Um,
Yeah.
but I think we're seeing some new looks, and that's going to be cool. Another person I'm going to bring up, someone who went to my school, Sean Tucker, didn't have the most impressive.
Undrafted made the roster.
Yeah, didn't have the most impressive game one. But
No,
let me
but
tell you, if they fix that run blocking a little bit, that's a rookie who could bring some excitement. There's a lot of excitement here. Do I think the Bucks are going to like win their division? I wouldn't bank on it at this point, but I do think it's something that they believe they can play for because they have a weak division. And I don't think that this is the only Tampa Bay Buccaneers upset we're in for this season. That's all I have to say
yeah.
about the Buccaneers, but we got to get back to your Mac Attack Patriots. Keep
I
proselytizing.
I will totally say this. I mean, Mac Jones looked poised. That's obvious, but good Lord. I mean, we were just talking about the Bucks defense. You could say all the same things about the Patriots defense.
And more. And
It's
more.
classic Bill Belichick defensive scheme that we've seen time and time again. And it's just so unstoppable and so you can't, it's just so unpredictable and so cool the way he does things. And I really do enjoy the way he's just he's the greatest coach of all time, and he proves it time and time again. And it was such a good defensive performance yesterday, shutting down a powerhouse QB like Jalen Hurts for the most part,
I appreciate hearing you say
nearly
that.
nearly shutting down a powerhouse running game. Really generating some pressure against an all-time offensive line, which was very surprising for me. I was very surprised by that. But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you
Bill
nailed it
Belichick,
on that.
get round of applause for Bill Belichick just calling a near perfect game defensively. Obviously there were just a lot of kinks. I don't think there was one specific thing that they did that just like led to them not pulling out with the win. I think it was just little things. I think it was little blunders that they did sometimes. But other than that, like all units really played well. And I do think that if they eliminate those mistakes, and they were like a play away. I mean, they were a play away
Well,
from winning.
it's like little things, little blunders, and I agree. But like the thing that people forget, I'm not saying you forget, but the thing
I didn't forget.
that I've seen lost in the conversation is they started this game out down, I believe 17-0. Those little
Yeah,
blunders happen early, and that is the point when a game gets away from most teams. But like, look, every time there's Bill Belichick doubt, every time people start talking about, is it over for Bill? Not that that was like a huge conversation, but some people were starting to wonder, is this post Tom Brady era just ever going to be the same? Bill Belichick pulls something out like this. He's had the whole summer to prepare for it. He doesn't care that they were just in the Super Bowl. I think there's a little bit of a rust factor on the Eagles, but this looks like the best Patriots defense I've seen in years, even with them being good last year. I'd like to also point out, I think they have an absolute hit in Christian Gonzalez in their first round
oh
pick.
yeah, he played
Um,
great.
man, they were giving Lane Johnson more to work for than he usually does. And if you know anything about Lane Johnson, you know he has that absurd streak of not giving up a sack for a
Oh yeah.
million games. I don't know if they counted a sack against Lane Johnson this game or not. I didn't see anything
I
specific,
don't believe they did.
but it was
I
close.
don't think they
It
did.
was close. It was close to
Yeah, it
stopping
was
that
close.
streak. Um, yeah, the Patriots defense, if you haven't watched a recap of the game, do, because there's defensive highlights. It looks great. But a little bit
Yeah.
on the note, a little bit of note on the offense. Um, you alluded to it earlier. What Mac Jones was able to do with Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne as his two best pass catchers was pretty freaking great.
Monumental. And he made Kendrick Bourne look like a really good receiver too, which was very interesting.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I didn't see that coming from Kendrick Bourne. I did not. I mean, the Eagles usually can sleep pretty tight on having James Bradbury and Darius Slay sort of lock up receivers.
Yeah.
Kendrick Bourne putting that work in. Granted, there is an issue the Eagles have at depth in the safety and linebacker position. If you're not closely following the Eagles and just listening to everyone saying, "Oh, they've got one of the best defenses in the league," they've got one of the best defenses in the league, you might not know that, but it is the truth. They do have a little bit of a hole at those positions. But that is nothing that is in no way, shape, or form a knock against what we saw from the Patriots offense. They do got to do a little bit more than we saw in week one to free up Ramondre Stevenson for some bigger
They
runs.
do have to do more with the run game. They have to do way more with the run game. That's like one of the big things I would say. Um, yeah,
But
you're right. They do need to
but
like, yeah,
look, when Matt Gesicki was brought to the Patriots, I know it was one of those moves. A lot of people went, "What? Like this is Bill Belichick just loves white people catching passes." But
hey,
but but that looks like it's paying off. Like those two on the field at the same time is not bad at all. There's some good chemistry there. Not that the two of them were like jumping off each other's shoulders to get higher to catch
true.
passes.
Yeah,
But like
yeah,
but this is we don't talk about tight end tandems a whole lot, but this looks serviceable. This is horrible news if you're a fan of any other AFC East team. But but the Patriots, they're not slouching this
yeah.
year. I think that should be common knowledge.
And the last thing I do want to say about the Pats is, it's so far. I mean, in the single game that we've seen, I would definitely say that the Bill O'Brien hire has worked out.
Yeah. I think we're getting closer and closer to that being something that can be said sort of non-controversially.
Yeah.
Now, I want to close talking about the future since we always harp on the past. Um,
Hmm.
heading into right, heading into next week, do you have a non-Rams game that you are the most excited for?
Ooh, ooh. Let me just very quickly look up the next slate. Um, I personally am excited, and this is another off the wall pick. I know. I personally am very excited to see Packers at Falcons.
Packers at Falcons. It's so funny you say that because I was about to ambush you with saying, all right, now usually people like choose an upset. I want to choose a sleeper good game, but you actually just did that. So
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I think that Packers versus Falcons has
I see what you're
potential to be
saying.
a very good game. And
I see what you're
you know
saying.
what? I'll be upfront with it. I just want to see more Jordan Love football. That's just the fact of the matter.
We'll check back and see if that was the good game that you're selling me. You you haven't really given any details, but I see the vision. I think I'm reading your mind correctly
Yeah,
on what
get
you're
in there.
excited
Get
about
in.
there. I'll try. But what game am I most excited to see? Well, the non-Rams game I'm most excited for is Eagles Vikings. I'm just kidding. Um, I'm most excited for the Chiefs and Jaguars. Now, Bills Ravens, yeah, like that's an obvious pick. Like that's a good rivalry right now. The Bills have, they're kind of mad about the sorry, the I said Bills Ravens, I meant Bengals Ravens. It's a good rivalry right now. Bengals are kind of mad about week one. That's sort of the obvious pick. And not the Chiefs Jaguars is any less obvious, but I'm extremely excited to see this. The main reason being, are we going to see a continuation of Chiefs wide receivers being horrible? Is Kadarius Toney going to do something insane in a good way? Is he going to do something insane in a bad way? Are we going to have a Trevor Lawrence statement? Because this is the other thing. A lot of people are starting to talk about Trevor Lawrence like, it's a sort of guarantee that he's one of the best quarterbacks, but I still think that their Jaguars are in statement win position, right? I still think that if the Jaguars beat good teams, that it can be viewed as a statement. So I'm trying to enjoy that while I can. Doug Peterson, I love you. Andy Reid, I love you. One second. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the upcoming week?
I have nothing else to say other than, oh boy, go Rams.
And fly Eagles fly. Let's hope we don't get eviscerated by Justin Jefferson with James Bradbury and Reed Blankenship out. And that
All
is
right.
all for the forward lateral.
We'll see you next week.